This video is about being self-aware. We need to have a healthy balance with ourselves and others, and have a self-check-in. Are our behaviors the same, or are they changing? What cycles are present? What self-beliefs and acts of harm do you do, and when? What's the initiator? What's the pattern? What about relationships? Do you articulate your own needs and ask that they be met? Do you have fair and reasonable boundaries? Are you fair or exploitative with others? Are you an equal in friendships or romantic relationships, or do you take the primary spot? Or do you shove your feelings to the side to make someone else happy? Maybe you consider yourself a people pleaser, or too nice, or loving too much. Do you have a clear evaluation of responsibility and accountability? Do you know yourself and what you are responsible for? And when you make mistakes, do you admit it and do you apologize? Do you see yourself as a victim, perpetually at the mercy of someone else, unable to protect yourself, unable to use your own voice, unable to hold your own boundaries? How open are you to constructive criticisms or the opinions of others? Open-mindedness is incredibly important in order to be self-aware. Do you have balanced relationships? Are you fair with others? Do you share energy equally most of the time? Do you share the room and the space for others to talk and vent, or do you dominate all the time? Or are you dominated by the needs of others, silenced and pushed into quiet submission? Do you need others to prop you up via praise or compliments? Or are you self-sufficient at your own esteem construction? What about your ego awareness? Do you see when your ego and your pride are the most dominant forces in your life, and use maturity, calm, and perspective to reset them when they are out of whack? Do you own it, even when it comes to flaws and insecurities? Or project it outward, unconsciously or even habitually onto others? You might even dismiss it as being a joke. What about learning the lessons? Do you learn from your mistakes, or do you just repeat them with new faces and new situations? Do you dismiss them as the other person being the problem, or just a string of bad luck, rather than seeing the highest purpose of what's going on and what is actually occurring? How's your self-care and your self-love? In order to maintain healthy mental state, we must put energy and time into our own self-care, into our own emotional wellness. So do you have a practice with yourself? Is there a mantra, an affirmation that you can go to on a daily basis to confirm and program the positive experiences and messages within your mind? What about body work? Is there exercise, yoga, or stretches, dance, or movement? Have you created at least a 15 to 20 minute window for yourself every day to do something where you get to move and unblock your chakras and your energies? What about sexuality? Do you have a healthy self-practice? And what about when you're with others? Is it gentle, kind, and harmonious, or violent and aggressive? You want to make sure with your sexual relationships with self and others that you do not do anything that causes trauma or damage, and rather that it is centered on something loving, nurturing, and holistically expressive in a gentle and sensual way. Socially, do you have reasonable and polite communications, or are you sharp? Do you use manners? Do you have a balanced use of power, or do you allow yourself to be pushed around? Or do you use your power as a tactic to be dominating over others? Can you be honest with yourself about how you are socially? Can you see where there might be room for growth? What about spiritually? Do you acknowledge a God? Do you create time for prayer or some sort of a ritual where you can connect to something bigger than yourself? What about hygiene? Do you shower daily or have a bath? Take care of your oral health by brushing your teeth at least 2 to 3 times a day? Or does this get neglected because you're busy doing other things? What about nutrition? Do you comply with the food guide or an even higher standard to make sure you're having wholesome and nutritious food as part of your lifestyle? What we eat is incredibly important for how we will feel. And so if we're not eating nutrient-dense foods that are alive, that have a higher vibration, we're not going to feel as joyful or as connected or as happy. We're not going to heal as quickly. We may be sluggish, irritable. What about a loving attitude? The way that you speak to yourself is creating your reality. So how are you generally towards yourself? What do you say in your head? What about to others? When you make mistakes, are you kind? Can you forgive so that you can recover quickly from your shortcomings, your mistakes, and your conflict? We all make mistakes, but can you put that in perspective so that you can get past it? What about your self-control and your impulse control? Do you pause before speaking or acting, or when things have become heated and heightened? Do you always seek pleasure or numbness when challenges arise? Do you look for a more permanent or a healthy or an alternate solution? Have you considered this? If not, is it time to do so? Do you manage your thoughts and your words towards yourself as lovingly and as gentle as possible? Or are you harsh and scolding? And what about how you speak to others? How you are speaking to others is the clearest indication of really how you are speaking to yourself. As your subconscious, your mind is programmed by the way you speak to yourself and what you listen to. These messages are embedded. They are affecting your happiness. So I urge you, reflect, restore, renew, make changes where changes need to be made. Namaste, bless and love, Shaman Aerospeed Thessaly.